Call to order the special meeting of the Navasota City Council at 6:01 p.m., May 13th. Dispense of item number 2, move to item 3, anything?
No, sir.
Item 4, conduct a workshop in the City of Navasota fiscal year 25-26 annual budget process and priorities. Mr. Heminger.
Sure, Mayor and Council, appreciate the opportunity tonight to go through some budget workshop discussion and talk a little bit about priorities as we go into this budget season. Allow you to give some feedback based on our current strategic plan and other planning documents and the topics that we'll go through, just so that staff has some direction as to the priorities that you all have, and then we'll go to work putting together a budget that addresses those. So you do have the slides in front of you if you want to make notes or anything. I'll put it on the screen as well, just for those in the audience, but I'll go through directly. I was fixing to yell at Kristen. This wasn't clicking. All right, so yeah, just as kind of an overall agenda, this is kind of the order that we'll plan to go through. We'll talk about the budget responsibilities, what our charter says, and what our governing documents say about whose responsibility is what, the staff involvement in developing that, our budget calendar, the planning documents that we'll use as a reference, and then talk briefly about tax rates, utility rates, and then some of the other topics that have been forefront, our employee benefits package collectively, departmental priorities. We'll touch on some of those things that the departmental directors are looking into, and then a debt analysis real quick as we conclude. I don't like this thing already. Okay, so the charter kind of outlines who's responsible for various components of the budget, and as you all are aware, and just as a reminder for all of us, the council is the body that sets the priorities for us. They establish the policies and procedures and what our priorities are and the direction that we are moving forward. And it talks there about what the charter specifically says there, and the city manager and staff develop a budget that targets, as I said, those priorities that you all have identified. We propose a budget to you, and then you, after adopting the budget, you levy the tax rate that has been used as the tool to develop that budget. So that is kind of our overall process. The next slide is our budget calendar, just the major action dates between now and budget adoption. So after tonight's workshop, we will receive input. The staff will then go back and put some work into it. We will come back in July with actually another full workshop. The plan is, and this was the first item, I guess, for us to specifically get input from you all. My thought was, if you all are open to it, having July 14th, which is the first council meeting in July, much like we did last night, maybe start at 4:30 and do the workshop before the council meeting that evening, rather than doing a separate night. If you all think you need more time or want to have a separate night, we can schedule it on a different night, but that was an option that would allow us to consolidate and not have to call special meetings if you all are open to that. And then certainly after that, if you all feel like we didn't get through everything and decide we want another meeting, we could certainly schedule another one, maybe the following Monday before the next council meeting, or we could do another workshop before the second council meeting in July. We can kind of play that by ear, whatever you all are open to. But if we don't have any objection, we'll plan on that July 14th doing a workshop similar to what we did last night, and starting a little early, get through the budget components first. And then in August, a week before the first council meeting, the plan is to actually send you the proposed budget. We will go through that in another work session kind of thing in August 11th at that council meeting night. Kind of walk through the highlights, touch on the things that are included in the budget. If there's anything that we talked about tonight that doesn't make it, we will make sure we highlight that and talk at length to figure out what options are. If you all feel like that's something that needs to be in there, we'll make sure we go through that process. And then in the 2 meetings in September are when we would do a public hearing and then the adoptions of both the budget and the tax rate prior to the fiscal year starting October 1. So that's kind of the high level or the major dates for action items for this body. And then you see here, the next slide just talks a little bit about staff involvement. From after tonight, staff will will continue their efforts. They've been working for over a month. Even before I was brought on board, they had already kind of started the process and started putting together some numbers. So they will finish those up. They've got some deadlines to turn things into finance with their estimates for this year and projections for next year. They will give their proposed departmental budgets to the city manager's office early June, and then we will have individual departmental meetings to talk through what their priorities are, make sure that they align with the direction that we got from you all, and use that to develop again. That's what will culminate into the proposed budget or the next workshop. Sorry, the second workshop, that first meeting in July. So that's kind of, again, just a high level review of the process before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of where do you all land on the various priorities. So we did capture one slide out of the strategic plan just as a reminder of what our mission statement and our vision statement say within the strategic plan. And then from there, we go into our core values, the THRIVE acronym for the core values, and then the goals. And each goal has specific objectives and topics in it that we're going to get into in more detail. So this was just really a review. Goal number 1 through 7 there are those same topics as you saw on the bottom of the previous slide. And then as we get into each of those, we get into the actual objectives. So starting at the detail for goal number 1, the objective there, or the goal is to plan for smart growth while maintaining small town charm. And so specifically the ones you'll see on these next few slides that are highlighted in yellow, I wanted to get into a little bit of detail and just kind of get a feel for the council's priorities and just to confirm that these are identified in our strategic plan, but we want to kind of know where you all are as far as in the hierarchy of our overall wish list, if you will. So obviously we have a comprehensive plan that's been grant funded. That project started. We are working towards hopefully mid-June doing a joint meeting with yourselves and the Planning and Zoning Commission to bring in the consultant that's going to work on the comprehensive plan for us. Again, grant funded, but bring them in, have a joint work session with the council and the P&Z to get your first opportunity for input. There will be several opportunities of public engagement through that process that you all can continue to stay engaged, but we wanted to give you right at the very beginning of that process the first chance for input to the consultant of what you would like to see in that comprehensive plan. And we don't need to get into the details tonight, and that one won't really impact this year's budget other than to say, as a great thing, we're going to be able to accomplish that objective without a burden on our budget because of the grant that you all were awarded even before I got here. So we did talk previously about a a 10-year CIP and an infrastructure plan. Those improvements, or you all did talk about and have that identified. And that is something that I think with a couple of you, I may have talked about bringing in Mr. Cox to come in and kind of go through, revisit make sure our strategic plan is still what we want it to say, and then go from there and dive into the development of a capital improvements plan that can last for 10, maybe even 15 years, so that we can really start thinking long-term about when we want to issue debt and plan for that in advance, so that we're not just spur of the moment, something comes up and we're having to issue debt for things that could have been planned a little better. And we're not dumping a whole lot of debt burden on the general fund budget or the utility fund budget for that matter at any given time. So I do anticipate that one kind of being in this year. Not a significantly high ticket item, but just wanted to highlight it because that is something that's identified in the strategic plan that you all had. And it looks like, it's not a significant cost. Just we'll go through, we'll have a couple meetings and go through that process. And then at the bottom there, you have the Parks and Rec Master Plan. There is an RFQ that they were preparing before I got here. We're about to issue that out so that we can start getting in some qualification statements and start discussing with potential consultants what that might look like and what that might cost us, and make sure that we have available funding, again, assuming that this is still where you all are on priorities. And then that last item, the update, the thoroughfare plan, highlighted that because I think there's an opportunity to roll most of the thoroughfare plan updates into the comprehensive plan project. And since that's already grant funded, I think we can get most of what we need, particularly for the next couple of years. We should be able to roll that into the comp plan and not have any additional expense on that one. So some good news on that one that relates back to the comp plan. Any thoughts on those? Anything else that you all don't see particularly under planning and economic development that maybe wasn't on the radar when this strategic plan came, or something that's up there right now that you think, oh no, we don't really need that? Just
I think we definitely need the Parks and Rec master plan. That's something that's been kind of put off for a while.
okay.
And determined from, different areas of town and different, where we have existing parks, and how we can maybe look at enhancing ones we have, and just look at usage, just look at all the different things that are involved with that. Because
does walkability fit into that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that really goes a long way to making your Parks and Rec master plan compliant with Texas Parks and Wildlife Division to be able to get a lot of their grant funding are those hike and bike trails that you can incorporate and you can connect. A lot of communities, I would envision we probably would try to connect that through some kind of a system that connects all of your public parks, in a big loop where, if someone wanted to map it out, or we could have it as a part of the plan that, this whole thing is a 8-mile, 12-mile, I don't know what the mileage would be, but a loop that if someone wanted to bike, they could, or if they want to walk it, they can, and they can pick up segments of different things to get, particularly from downtown out. You could have spokes that come out. So I think it's, it definitely would be included in that.
On the thoroughfare plan, when we adopted it, we needed the thoroughfare plan as a requirement to qualify for something else. I forget what. And I'm just wondering if we fold it into the comp plan, if it's still going to help us in that qualification.
Yes, sir. I wasn't suggesting that we would fold it into the comp plan. I was just thinking we can accomplish the update while we're going through the comp plan process. I don't know that we have talked a little bit with the consultant about maybe developing a UDC or Unified Development Code for the community, which helps developers because it puts everything under one umbrella, one development code. They can find all of everything they need for development, which is subdivision, zoning, all of those different development type things. And sometimes the thoroughfare plan gets rolled into that, but it doesn't have to. It can still be a document that you all have adopted if it's needed for complying with a highway system grant or something along those lines. As we move into the next one, didn't really have anything that's significantly budget impactful, but you do have some objectives under your marketing and communications goal. And specifically, I think some of those things are in the plan now that you've got both your marketing and communications director as well as the downtown Main Street manager position filled. That again was identified previously, but now they're starting to go into some of these specific objectives. And again, just by their nature, they don't really significantly impact the budget. They just are identified as priorities for the community and priorities as a part of the strategic plan. So I just didn't want to skip over any of them, so we included it. And if you all have any thoughts or specific things on there that you feel like are pressing or significantly high importance, just wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in on that.
Yeah, on that 2.5 on the let's see, town hall meeting twice a year.
Mhm.
We had talked about that last year.
Okay.
And the only time that happened was, I guess, when we began talking about the park master plan over at the Navasota Center. But just having a town hall meeting and listening to the citizens and everything, I think is very, very valuable.
Okay.
And just from meeting with some residents here on the search for a new city manager, that kept coming up about town hall meetings and everything. So, I kind of like if we can do it each quarter instead of twice a year.
Okay.
Of course, the comp plan is gonna have that, is gonna be part of that anyway.
Yeah. We will have several town hall meetings as a part of the comp plan process, but I think what I heard the councilman suggesting is more of just an open topic, not designated
Right.
for the
Right.
Parks Master Plan or the comp plan, just a open town hall where we would all be sitting up here and available for discussion topics of,
Listening to the
the
citizens.
the challenge there, and we don't have legal counsel here to kind of give an immediate answer. We can certainly look into it. The challenge is the way the Open Meetings Act says if you all are going to engage in the discussion, it has to be an agendaed topic. So it's very difficult to structure a town hall meeting so that it's just whatever anyone wants to talk about, because if you're going to respond, we have to have actually posted an agenda 72 hours in advance. So, but maybe there's a way for us to solicit from the public through a survey, hey, we're going to have a town hall meeting next month. Are there topics of particular interest? And we get in some feedback and we pick the top 5, the top 8 topics, and we list those in an agenda, and then we go that route. Maybe that's a way to solve that. I don't know, but I know that from experience that our city attorney would not allow us to just have an open,
Right.
we're going to discuss any and all topics, because then we wouldn't meet the agenda requirement.
You might check with Taylor. We did a fairly recent survey that it was all shared with council and staff, so there has been, it's not like we haven't done anything.
Okay.
And I think we had talked about, so Nav
Notify now. No.
It was what we used to
Nav
have,
notify.
where people could make complaints, or if they, saw a pothole, they could take a picture of it and submit it through.
Citizen, sir?
You can do that through the website right now.
There's multiple apps.
Yeah.
The last thing.
What's the one that had it was on the window downtown. It was Navigate Nav, right? And you could take a picture
Well,
of it,
it was
and it
an-
had the
it-
QRL.
I think it was an app.
That was an app.
That app has been disabled. I don't think it's even active anymore.
Okay. There was. Okay, so there's a way for me right now to go to the website and use my phone to take a picture of a pothole or a something,
Yeah.
and then have feedback that it's been addressed.
Yeah,
Great.
I use it. I use it myself. I do it
Had
to
no
report
idea.
junk vehicles. I do.
Where is it? It's just from the Navasota tx.gov.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. We just saved ourselves some money.
Budget's getting easier.
On the homepage of the website, there's
Yeah.
those buttons, and one of them says report a problem, and that's where
Okay.
you.
Under where it says here, where how I can help you, you just, report a problem.
How do you do that from your phone, though? I mean, it's,
You can do it.
well, I mean, I
Do it.
get how you do it, but
Oh.
I certainly understand how the phone works. It's hard to see on on a smaller device.
I mean, it's just smaller,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
the same.
All right,
It's
cool.
the-
And
I
that's
think
a good question.
I think the website
It's-
automatically scales to like a cell phone
Yeah.
template.
Okay.
So it's not easy, but
I just have to put my glasses.
for somebody visually challenged.
Okay, do people use it? Do people use it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
We actually get code enforcement complaints through the code enforcement program and also through the citizen request.
Because a lot of those ones that we see in our weekly report from Eric
Or
come
from there.
come from there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Very good. Then as we get into quality of life, there's only one item highlighted here, but this is one of those things where I think we're gonna see pretty significant strides in the relatively near future. Just as we try to really take advantage of the marketing team and the events that we already have going on in town, just as, like Sounds of Navasota from just this past week and what it'll be starting, and then 4th of July, and then our Christmas, just all of those different community events all go towards quality of life impact and really start to improve that. And the Parks Master Plan will go a long way. That'll help us to add or enhance a park or rec facility. It'll help us pursue grant funds for that. So that's kind of why we wanted to touch on that there, but also just wanted to pause here and just kind of get some feedback on, with regard to the public events that we have, the parks that we have. Obviously we can't afford to do everything we want to do in one year, but just kind of wanted to hear what are the top things that you all, really feel like go towards quality of life in Navasota, so that we make sure that we don't miss something.
I would like to see, I know we've got different parks in town. Would like to, I know that we're in the process of creating Brew Park. Right now, it's just in the phase of looking, but the quality of life is when you can take your family out to a picnic area and have a barbecue pit there in the ground, or have your own up underneath the big shade tree and have room to just sit down one afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and just have a great time. We've got parks in town that is capable of doing that, but I just wish that we can get the word out to the people that these parks are available for you to use and to do that. You know, this past year I rode around and I was real happy when I rode over there with Pat Tupon. You know, had mothers and daughters and sons and fathers over there fishing and everything. That's just quality of life. And,
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
some of the people don't even know that they can fish there without being run off anything. So it's just
Yeah, and along that same line, I think we sometimes forget what we have and how much we have. And if you look at all the total parks, then probably 80% of them, 75% of them are connected, kind of like what you were saying before. And people don't know that. And then we have some parks that I think can have some very minor enhancements that would not be a huge toll on, on the budget. I think I mentioned to you like the Cleveland Street Park. We paid to demolish the Scout Hut, and Kiwanis Club donated the land, and it's right along the creek, and there's a slab there for basketball court that I think would be used if we just put up some new basketball goals. I mean, I know I'm getting into probably into the weeds on the exact stuff, but I think that would serve a really good purpose there. And we even talked about, you could do very cheaply just something to provide shade, just a canopy. It doesn't have to be, it's open-sided, so. But then there's our other parks too, just again, and we can also talk to some of our nonprofits. Will, if we give them, this is what we want to do, more than likely, a lot of those nonprofits will step up and write a check as they have done in the past.
Okay.
So I say before we, do this big grandiose plan that may think we need more parks, we may not. We just gotta kind of, I guess, more
Something that can be
basically
fleshed out.
an inventory of what.
Exactly. I think, and that's the first part of that Parks and Rec master plan is, it doesn't necessarily mean we're starting from scratch. Let's take advantage. They're going to take a good inventory of what we have and where are those what I wrote down was low hanging fruit. Where are those little investments that can go a long way, and they'll help us, guide through that. Yeah. Thought I saw a thought coming there, Josh.
You didn't.
Okay. All right.
You did, but.
And I'll comment on the Boys and Girls Club or YMCA thing. I mean, that's it'd be great if, the city could assist in trying to find something like that. But I think there've been a lot of enhancements with a lot of the current leagues that we have. A club would be great, but I don't know that we're quite ready for that or have the resources to do something like that. I think we could, work with all the leagues we have now that like the, youth football league is really grown, and it's under new leadership and going in a great direction. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we can leave that on there, but it would be something to shoot for the future. But that's a huge undertaking.
Right.
With the,
And I don't know that it won't look like it's the city's responsibility to do that. It's the community's responsibility.
with the library and the parks department, Tiffany and her crew are doing a great job in having programs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, just the amount there has been incredible.
Agreed.
And it's offering a lot of the kind of things that a Boys and Girls Club would offer.
Yeah. They're trying to put in a YMCA up in Bryan College Station, and it's been major fundraising and everything else, the things they're going through. We're not anywhere near up to that financially or otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was involved in trying to establish a Boys and Girls Club many times over the years.
Yeah.
And you got to find a sugar daddy that has $1 million that can get you off the ground.
Yep.
But then You gotta pay employees. I mean, these people don't volunteer for nothing.
Right.
Then you gotta have a facility. That's been looked at different places. It just hasn't panned out, so. I just wanna be realistic about it.
Good point. All right, and as we move into staffing, you had a goal there of developing a staffing plan. The one thing that I know we discussed even back into my interviews and was in your, recruitment brochure when you were looking for a city manager and has been identified, obviously, previously was increasing the TMRS, but I think the comprehensive employee benefits package, just making sure that we are taking care of the employees that are serving this community and making sure that we're not only have a salary that's consistent with the market and is competitive so that we get good talent and can retain that talent, but also the benefits package is, aside from salary, there's the retirement, there's health insurance and all of those things. And so one thing that is high on, at least on my radar, because you all made it clear in the in my hiring process, that looking at what will that take and can we make that TMRS increase and looking at that. But, there are other things that go into that total employee package and making sure that we've got the right employees in the right places. We're going to get to another slide that talks about the org chart and just kind of evaluating where we are with personnel, but specifically on the benefits, at least the one that I know of right now is that TMRS, and that's, it's not free, like we talked about. We can't do everything, but that's one of those that is on there. And we'll look to see if we can make the whole step, or maybe we do from 5 to 6 and then 6 to 7, or can we make it all in 1 year? Well, we're evaluating that, looking at the price, and we have to look and see what else, as you start adding those dollars up here, something gets pushed off at the bottom, and we'll have to look and see where that line ends up getting drawn and what can we afford to do this year. So,
Just so everybody knows what we're talking about retirement.
yes, sir.
You will show us that, we're at 5 right now, right?
Yes, sir.
You will show us that at kind of halfway there and then all the way there? Okay.
Like a stair step.
Yeah. The idea is to try to make it all in there, but if you all think that, well, maybe we can get halfway there, we'll look and see what that dollar amount looks like and what it pushes off the bottom that says, okay, if we do this all in 1 year, here's the 1, 2, or 3 things that we won't get to put in, or we can put back if we instead of go to 7%, we only go to 6% this year. Yes, we will absolutely look at those options.
Then,
And you can survey staff too, to kind of see if that's a priority for them.
They want it to be 20% and 10 years.
Well, that's not a match, that's
Exactly.
not a matching thing.
Right.
you've got the 20-year retirement. Well, I think that was already there before you got here, but what's the difference in the dollar wise from a 20-year to a 25-year retirement?
Are you asking about what that costs the city or what it changes for the employee?
Both.
So I can tell you from experience, the difference, the way TMRS is not a defined benefits plan. It's based, each employee's retirement annuity is based on their account balance. So there is an account for each employee that TMRS keeps. They know how much money that employee has put into. They know what the city's matching funds will be. They know how much interest it has earned. And they take that dollar amount and they use a mortality table that says if it's a female or a male, different mortality tables. They look at that. They look at the beneficiary's age and what options are being selected. And that is how their monthly annuity benefit is calculated, off of their individual account balance. So it's very difficult to just say in blanket terms what it is, but there are some generalities that we can draw. essentially a 20-year retirement to a 25-year retirement will result in about double the monthly benefit to a retiree that a 20-year retirement had. But there's a lot that goes into that. Number one, they've put more money in because they worked 5 more years. They're 5 years older, so that mortality table is putting them 5 years closer to death. And so there's a lot of different things that go into that. So it's not, again, it's just, it's a reality. And so while currently we are on a 25-year retirement plan, the objective to go to a 20-year, for me personally, I don't see that so much as the cost to the city. The real benefit in doing that is the talent that we can recruit in mid-career transfers, folks that are looking to come here that have worked in other cities. Every city that I had been in there prior to coming here was a 20-year retirement city. This was my first 25-year retirement. The way the TMRS system works is you have to meet the requirement of whatever is the highest of any of your cities that you have service in. So had I not already been over 25 years, I would have lost my eligibility. If I was between 20 and 25 and moved from Iowa Colony or any of the other cities to come here, I would have potentially lost my eligibility to retire until I got to 25 years, which probably would have meant I'm probably not interested in making that move at that stage in my career because it's a risk. The employees don't know what, the future holds. I was beyond that. I'm at 33 years in TMRS. So I'm not looking to make this for me, but I am looking at if we are, as our future grows, as we look to attract, directors or an assistant city manager in the future, the community will be served better by having a plan that's more consistent with what most cities have and the majority of them. I won't say all or even most or even close to all of them, but it is over a majority that have the 7% and 20-year combination.
That 4.2 recruitment plan, I can't remember what that kind of encompassed. What is that?
I'll have to ask someone that was
Kind of a
here when this
general-
was developed. We just took this out of that
Yeah.
strategic plan document, so without any supporting documents,
What that was.
it would be hard to.
Just with my research, so your staffing plan is looking at your current staff and then your future staff development, additional staff that you might need in the future in different areas. Whereas a recruitment plan is really taking all of the pieces that will help attract talent and putting it into a plan that helps us be more strategic in how we recruit new employees to come to the city.
Yeah, I'm curious, Ed, when we do an exit interview, I kind of see it as two different levels of staff. You have the more professional and then the guys that are actually working. And so I don't know that this would, sorry. We talk all the time
I've been
about
not
the
working
guys.
for 33
The
years.
guys
I'm
that are
okay.
in the field are the ones that are really working, right? So is there a way to break up retirement or break up? I think people are saying, I want more money and it's probably I want a paycheck that's larger. I don't really care about retirement at 18, 19, 20, 21.
Admittedly, they will not. Yeah,
and
I
so-
served on pension board in Pasadena for a long time. They don't,
Or none.
that age, this isn't good necessarily for early career recruitment. It's good for
Mid-career.
retention and for mid-career transfers. But when you get those, oftentimes I saw this, you will have the working class folks that will get mid-career and can say, well, I've done 15 years here. I got to go another 10 in this hole digging out these water lines that are broken. But if I go up the street to College Station, they're a 20-year retirement city. I may jump ship and go up there and get the last few years.
Yeah, I'm just curious at the folks that have left here, have they said to us, the reason we're leaving is because your retirement is too long? or the return rate is not, high. I mean, what I hear from people that leave is they want more money. I mean, that's really I don't know that retirement is the answer.
I think it depends on your perspective. So Robert and I both started young in TMRS, and so you may not think about it when you first start in it. I guarantee you, after you've spent 5 years, 10 years in the system, like I started at a 7-year city. Before I came to Navasota, I always worked at a 7% city, 20-year. And I'm extremely grateful now that I did have that extra, addition to my retirement in those early years, because it helped build my retirement a lot. And so I think maybe you don't think about it when you're 21, 22, 23, but as you get into it and as you work in municipal government, you do start to see it as a benefit as you start to think about your future. So I know it can be different for everyone, but I think most of us who started in the system young are thankful now that we did have it at a higher rate when we started.
Sure. Can you help to, when we're discussing this budgetary wise, think about those people that have left and whether or not they would have stayed for more pay or retirement? That's what I'm asking. But use that as kind of your guide as you're looking at what this looks like. Because I'm interested if you could pay a police officer or somebody that is digging a sewer line more money, that may be more important depending on what the pay is for we're trying to get a crew. That seems to me to be important. We can't get a crew. They're not thinking about retirement. They're thinking about what am I going to make per hour?
Yeah, from my, obviously, I haven't been here long enough to do any exit interviews in Navasota. But have done quite a number across my career. And surprisingly, most, research shows us that there is an important component, the salary is an important component, but generally speaking, I can tell you in the exit interviews that I've done over the years, very seldom was the salary the primary reason. It may have been a factor. It may have been why they started looking, or it may have led into it once they really started looking and then they saw a dollar sign on the other side of the fence. But usually there's something else. That's why we do exit interviews, because usually there's something else in the organization. It may be a supervisor, it may be a management issue, it might be benefits package, it might be a combination of everything. It could be a personality conflict with a coworker. There's a lot of things that go into it. But we also do have, it's not on this slide, but we are going to talk about, we are up this year for doing that. You all did a salary survey in 2022. So if you're trying to do that 3 to 4 year cycle, so we do plan on trying to do a salary survey as well. And again, it's that balance of what can we make the whole jump from 5 to 7% and keep all of these other things in there? I don't know. It may be that we take a 5 to 6% the first year, and then we look for the next opportunity to go the other percent. But
Thank you.
yes, but we do have the salary survey as a component as well of this budget.
Okay.
Getting into human resources, again, nothing really budget impactful. We are looking at, Kristen, tell me the name of the software that we have that we're.
It's NeoGov.
NeoGov is a new tool that we'll be using for, it helps you do your online application review and vetting of applicants and processing them in. It helps you do your onboarding, have a structured onboarding process. So we're kind of taking care of that. That one's already in the works. You all had already funded that prior to me being here. And then you've already, it says complete, you've already taken care of your board and commission onboarding process. And we are starting to look at not only for the last one is specific to PTO for public safety, but we're looking at the personnel policies just in general. Where can we make improvements there? What can we take as industry best practices and incorporate into our handbook to make sure that our employees have the best resources available and the best handbook? guiding their behavior. And then as we get into the last couple, facilities and buildings in particular, really kind of something that also it will be a part of the Parks Master Plan, or there will be components of this that fall into that, but really having that last one that you've got down there is partially complete because you'd already done some investments in the Bruley Park, the pool and that kind of stuff. But really having that comprehensive facilities master plan that really helps direct the city staff to where you want facilities as we look for long life term facilities, and where are we going to host things, where are we going to invest in infrastructure, building infrastructure to serve the community into the future. And again, that's one of those things that we don't want to try in the budget process in 1 year to say, hey, next year we want to build, a new city hall. Hopefully that's in a plan that we've made some steps, preliminary steps going up to it so that we're prepared for that process, because an investment like that is a pretty big endeavor, and you don't want to just jump into it haphazardly. So having that facilities master plan where you can space those things out so that you're not overburdening, and we're not overburdening our budget or our staff. The other items you already have kind of taken care of, some of those, and some are in the process of.
You can definitely take Orlock House off.
Yes, this, again, we just copied this directly out of the strategic plan, so there are absolutely some updates that will come from our efforts this upcoming year when we update the strategic plan. And then particularly when we get into infrastructure, there's several there, both general fund and utility fund things. Obviously maintaining and repairing our infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that even last night. We've got some needs in our community that we need to make sure that we're not diverting funds away from to go to new development areas. And so those that, we've got things there that we need to be putting funds aside for and making sure that they're available when we have these repairs or, major issues. And then we have some equipment acquisitions. There's a couple that were identified here, and then we'll get into in a minute. There's some others that you'll see in the departmental review that the directors will be coming up with. But obviously you already had, when this document was done, the new MDTs in the police vehicles, the citywide cameras, which already have a couple up. How many are up and running now, Chief? Just the first one is, yeah. Second one, they had a little bit of issue when it was going installed, but then adding more of those, is the plan, I guess, for lack of a better term. They did have, did you share with everyone the issue with or what we got from the camera last night? Yeah, I mean, so it's good news, and it goes right to why that is a public safety initiative. The citywide cameras are a good public safety initiative. Obviously, they give us situational awareness of what's going on with the trains, but also our downtown corridor. And you all saw the press release that went out yesterday from the police department about the counterfeit currency. They were able to use through their investigative tools that camera to track back and to see the violator or perpetrator or whatever the suspect going into the store, and then we're able to go to that store and get their internal footage and get a good picture of them with their vehicle and their license plate. And so, that detective work went full circle, and now they have a suspect on that issue. So great rewards already serving the community from that investment that you all made previously. So that's the last of those. Anyone else any of those that particularly that you want to talk about or say anything about?
Besides the, fire station, what other new construction that we may have going on?
I don't know that we have anything on the immediate plan, for this upcoming year, with regard to the fire station. We're gonna get to it in just a second, but I have had a conversation with the fire chief and, we want some time. I would like some time to evaluate kind of where we are, with that project, what our, fund balance looks like, what that impact will be on our general fund if we issue that substantial amount of debt. Can we afford that debt payment for the term of that loan? So I just want to get a level of comfort, of what our fiscal condition is. So not saying we've put that, we've said we're not doing it, but just it'll be several months down the road before that comes back up, because I just want to get my feet under me and get a good analysis of where is the city of Navasota right now fiscally? What is our condition, and what are all our funds, look like? How healthy are they really? And how will that impact us to issue, $15-18 million worth of debt, onto our general fund?
We have Broley Park too, the Navasota Center.
Yeah.
Stopped working again.
Went to sleep.
Going the wrong way. Yes, okay, so now we get into, the tax rate. So we did a little illustration there of just area, cities and what their tax rates, at least from my new to the area eyes, it looks to me like probably the top 5 there are what we would refer to as full service cities, really have all of the features, all of the services, city services that we have. The other ones, probably don't have as robust of city services, full cadre of utility, infrastructure and all of those services that we do. And the good story there is, of those 5 in the area, we're in the bottom 2 as far as when we're comparing tax rates to other cities. So it's not like we're driving off, potential residents that might come here, but they could go to College Station. They're going to have a little higher tax rate. We're not so far out there leading that, people are turned off by coming here because the tax rate is high. So really, that's the only purpose for this slide. It's not to say we're better than them or, anything other than, it looks like we're well situated in the market around us and what other cities, around us have. So, not something that we, especially need to be concerned with. I'm not saying why don't we go up and be just under Brian? I'm not suggesting anything like that. I'm just saying, it looks like we're in a decent position, and I kind of wanted to see where you all land on, are you getting a lot of downward pressure for the tax rate from your constituents? Or are you getting a lot of feedback like that? Because again, if we start trying to cut the tax rate, then that makes that makes the resources available to do all of those other priority things. The line moves up on that list. Some things fall off below that we can't afford to fund. And so, I would like to start at, let's see what that tax rate from last year gets us. And, see where that gets the line. Unless you all just really have strong feelings of, hey, I think we've got so many priorities, we need to go up a penny or two, or, hey, I'm just getting blasted. I think we absolutely have to cut. Doesn't matter what the priorities are, we have to cut. I don't know that either one of those extremes is where you land. I'm just throwing out there to.
I would say for me, I don't hear a lot of concern about the tax rate. And But what we hear a lot about is a utility rate.
Next page.
I think that's the next couple slides, one of the next few slides. We're gonna get to that one.
That's where.
This is only half of the equation because as far as the taxes are concerned, it's the rate plus the assessed value.
The appraisal district,
And-
yep.
and, Our appraisals have traditionally been cheaper than College Station. So it's not just an easy matter of looking at the tax rate.
You want to hear about complaints, it's.
Utility.
You're talking about
Right.
the assessments.
We're gonna talk about that in just a second. All right, so, I mean, it's the very next slide. Let me step back for just a second. So from there, I'll use that. I'll kind of start off with, that'll be our basis, with seeing where that gets us and then we'll just go from there. That fair?
Yeah.
Now, when we get into utility, and we didn't, the top part of this slide isn't necessarily meant to look specifically at the dollars and cents up there. It was just to illustrate that you all adopted a utility rate plan back in 2022 that had, over the course of up to 2027, had built-in escalations each year. And because I don't know where we are yet, I'm not proposing today any change to that, but just wanted to illustrate that we do have a plan. But one of the things that I think I've seen in just my conversations with utility billing and with finance is I think even though we would be going into 2026 with one more year already in the pre-approved plan, I would like to go ahead and bring in really the same firm that I'd like to bring in to start evaluating an impact fee study. I'd like to also let them start looking at a utility rate study and see, hey, where are our rates relative to our costs, and our operations, and what adjustments can we make that might be able to relieve some of that burden on folks. And
Because I
so
think
I'd like to
what
get an analysis.
I think what happens is it's just like when the cost of eggs went up, everybody felt it. But they're not thinking from customers, including myself, are not thinking about it from a cost standpoint and we got in trouble a few years back when we did not keep up with those costs.
That's right.
And that you have to do that. You have to cover the cost.
Right. Well, and go ahead.
And comparing it to what College Station rates are, that you can't compare that. That's not, people don't, they need to understand we have our own costs that are what they are.
That's right. And our infrastructure is in a different age and a different condition than College Station's. So our repair costs, our maintenance costs are gonna be different, and so, yeah, all of those things go into that factor. So I just wanted to say, even though you already had this, I'd like to go ahead and bring someone in to start that analysis so that we get some feedback over the course of the next 4 to 6 months of, hey, where are we and what can we do to maybe help out? But again, we can't cut our nose off to spite our face and end up with no money to do the repairs. You have to build those CIP costs into that. But at the same time, I think the decision, I don't know that it was really a decision, but the discussion that we had last night about no longer deferring money from here, existing infrastructure needs, to go over here and find development or install new lines for a new development. I think that's going to play a big part as well, because now the money is going to be where it needs to be to make the repairs and maintain our infrastructure.
Does a rate study include evaluating how the cost is calculated?
It
Or
does,
is it just
absolutely.
compared to what other cities are doing?
Absolutely not. No, it looks at our operational costs. We just did one at where I was. So it will look at what it costs us to operate those systems, what our average consumption is, and what our likely CIP projects are that will need to get funded out of that, so that hopefully you don't have to go in when you need to do some capital project. You don't have to adjust your rate. The payment for that debt, for your revenue bonds, is already built into your rate so that you can pay that from that same rate study. So yes, it takes in our specific costs.
No, I was just gonna say is that I'm definitely in favor of that because, I know that the way that we somewhat calculate the sewage is by the amount of water that we use. And here lately, my sewage bill has been more than my water bill. And, you know, that some kind of way the calculation is messed up because it's all based on how much water you use for the sewage to be in. And just about every tap that I've got, my sewage bill is more than the water bill. And I just can't figure that out. And, you know, and I hadn't had nobody to explain to me how can that happen.
Your neighbor coming over and dumping their stuff in your toilet?
No, but I'm
There's no way of
I'm
measuring
quite for sure that
Joke.
if everybody take a look at their city utility bill, their sewage rate is higher than the water bill. And it seems like it should be the other way around.
I don't know, we spent an awful lot of money on that wastewater plant recently. There's a problem too in the way that the payments are made, and looking at it and saying, okay, we don't want to hit everybody, hit the customers with an increase in each one of these things at one time. So maybe we'll take a little bit bigger bite in the water bill this year, and then next year we'll hit them on the wastewater and keep balancing it out that way. I don't know how it makes a difference when you come right down to it out of the pocketbook, but we've certainly had these discussions over the years of which one we should raise. Well, we can't raise that. We just raised that last year. We can't do this one, we can't do that one. We get a study done and they sit there and say, you're way under charging for one of these things. And do you bite the bullet and take the big step, or do you say, well, we'll spread that over 3 years? So that's one of the issues that comes up on this.
Okay. All right, then we get into more of the compensation and benefits side of the equation, where we had in our strategic plan, you already had identified that TMRS change, but these are just some of the other things, and we talked a little bit about it. You had previously done a salary survey in December of 2022, so if we started one late this year, that would be that 3-year plan, which is pretty consistent with what the recommendations are, and get a salary survey done so that we can really analyze, are we being competitive? Are we fairly compensating the employees that work for us and that are serving the community? From a cost of living standpoint, we're a little early yet, but looked at what the CPI, the Consumer Price Index for urban areas, through March shows a 2.4% CPIU. If you take out food and energy, which is pretty consistent with what they oftentimes compare it to, you get at 2.8, and food prices alone are at 3%. That's a 12-month average increase. So that is usually what cities use to, you may already know this, to develop a cost of living adjustment, a COLA. And so looking at this, I would think if you all are open to it, probably a 2.5 or a 3% COLA across the board for all employees would be consistent with these numbers. But again, that's something that just want to kind of get your nod or your hesitance, or where you feel like it's been. I don't know what you've done in the years past, if you feel like you've kept up, or hey, we're behind, we need to, or man, we were leading the market, I really don't think we need to do a COLA this year. You guys kind of give me some guidance on that. Again, there will be some correction made later in the year when we get a salary survey. If we implement that, there may not be so imperative that we do it at the October 1 if we're going to do that salary survey and include funding for implementation of that. But just wanted to see where you all land on that, or what the past practice has been here.
I think you just answered my question, because I was gonna ask, was the salary survey was gonna be done before budget or after, but I think you just said it's gonna be done after.
Yeah, it would usually be done late, after. Yeah, oftentimes it's even better to wait till like January to do those, because once you get after the budget, you start getting into the holiday season, and it's really hard to get cities to fill those out and send them in. So we've had the best success usually doing them in mid-January, getting them in so that about springtime or about the mid-year point of your fiscal year, you're getting those results. And if you got money available, you can do it then, or you can wait till the following.
I think the way that we did it last year was up to a 4% merit deal. It wasn't just straight
Not a
across
cost
the
of
board.
living across the board.
But I
They give the cost of living amount to the department heads to distribute, and they could consider merit.
Okay.
I believe that's right.
It was just a merit of up to 4%.
Up to, right. Based on.
Gotcha.
but I
And we
kinda-
have, I don't have a slide on it tonight, and I probably should have incorporated it just to start the discussion. One of the things that I have talked a little bit with staff about is, I would like to see us, rather than just have a big range for positions, to have the defined steps within there. You still get the same minimum and maximum. You just have pre-calibrated steps throughout there that you can budget off of, and you can analyze and say, okay, well, the steps each year at your anniversary, when you do your performance review, as long as you meet the metrics and you get the satisfactory performance, you move up to the next step. And the premise there is, as an employee's tenure increases, their value increases, and they move across. That helps with retention, because they're moving up in their pay grade in those predefined steps. And it keeps anyone from alleging, well, he likes her better than me, so he gave them the higher percentage, even though I do most of the work. You just take all of that out, all of those kind of arguments out, and the steps are what they are. But again, I'll bring back an illustration, so if that's it's difficult to conceptualize that without a graphic.
well, personally, I kind of like the 3% of just straight across the board.
Well, that's pretty much what we did last year, didn't we? Didn't they put in a system with steps and?
It was up to 4% merit increase based on a performance evaluation. So all employees had an evaluation conducted, and if they received, 2% on their, or a score of 2 on their evaluation, that equated to a 2% increase. If they received a 3%, a 3, it would be 3%. 4%. So it was strictly merit based last year. It was not
No, but I mean, on the whole system was set up on a kind of a grid, where you have a grade, and you had a range within that grid. If you were a position 11, then your pay
the
raise
study
was,
itself. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your pay grade.
I think
Pay grades.
we have a thing that was made up last year.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, I certainly would think that we would want to look at some sort of increase in salaries for those people that need it, or are deserving, or have done good on their evaluations, or whatever. There's something that's gotta.
Okay.
But it's moving your grid up and down as the cost of living goes up, type thing.
Right, that would be, so, yeah, in my mind, there's two different components. You have a cost of living, that is, the whole scale moves
Right.
up, 2.5%, 3%, whatever that is. So every employee's salary moves up by that exact same percentage. And then aside from that, you have an annual evaluation that could result in you receiving a merit increase as well as the cost of living. So better, satisfactory performance moves you up in merit, whereas
Could be 5%.
just keeping your job gets you a COLA. And then the bottom there is health insurance. Again, that's just, we're not proposing, any changes, and we're not anticipating any significant changes. But there will be, as there always is, an increase when we get our re-rate plans. We are, I think, meeting later this week with the current broker, and we're gonna at least talk to one more just to compare, kind of get a couple options of what do the plans look like and what is our cost. Last year, just for an illustration, you had about a 6% increase to your medical insurance plan. So I would think you're probably looking about the same. Health insurance never goes down. So that'll get built into the plan. And then as we get into just the last few slides, departmental priorities, the department directors are looking at the personnel that they have. They've been asked for this year to not plan on new positions unless there is some dire, absolute, urgent need, that we'll discuss, and then we'll come and discuss it at this level. But to try to just hold the line with what we have right now for personnel so that we can evaluate where are we? Are there areas that we have that we can shuffle employees around to rebalance and get things accomplished? Get a good feel for that. Let's look at our parks and facilities. What are the needs there? Again, that like the mayor mentioned earlier, the low hanging fruit. What are some things we can do there at a relatively low cost? But what are some of those, facility needs from a maintenance perspective that do need to be rolled into the budget? So they're asked to identify what are the priority items that need to be addressed, as well as equipment needs. If we have things other than what was on the strategic plan you had there, the MDTs and something else. I don't remember what the other item was under that bullet. But if there are other urgent equipment needs that we need to identify and bring to you all as a part of the budget. And then again, just from stepping over into the utility fund side, what are the infrastructure needs and repairs and maintenance issues that we have that we need to roll into the utility fund budget to address those things. So I'll pause there to see if you all have anything that's already high on your mind that would fall into one of those, that's high on your radar of, hey, I know we need more money for pothole repairs. I'm not suggesting, I'm just throwing out something to spawn the discussion. Yeah, that may be what you need.
This year's street project is significantly more in value than it was in previous years. So
Right, and I think
one
that's
leak
next
that we kinda-
budget agenda, right? And in the June council agenda, I think Jennifer will be bringing the award for for this year's street repairs. Yes, sir.
And I know we've had an ungodly amount of water leaks, and I don't know how you budget for that, or do you? But I mean, is there any hope in sight that we have taken a bite into that?
Yes, so we have gotten. But what we have done. They gotten hurt or whatever. and kind of float like the meter technician. I have Mr. Green.
I do have one question, Jennifer, is, that, on the big water leak that we had over by La Casita, uh, is it that we didn't have the equipment to repair that, or we just didn't have,
So we didn't have the equipment.
the road?
The storm
Mhm.
that the leak was under?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what kind of equipment that it took to,
It was a pretty, so we,
And plus you had to have a concrete contractor as well.
We should have a great improvement on the leak control because all of that long period of time with the CIP, road construction and everything, those were specifically done with the ones that were leaking the worst, digging up the whole thing and doing that whole street. So all of those should be in pretty good shape. Also, it hadn't been mentioned, and I guess it's because I'm the only one that's on the other side of the tracks type thing. But last Sunday, that crew worked all day on that leak down there on McAlpin and 237. Yeah, and they finished it up, they had the water turned off type thing from, 8 o'clock in the morning till like 9 o'clock at night. I think they worked through it all day on that.
and Mr. Harris, you can already see it drying up in the air.
right. The reason
It's
that,
working out.
Less loss of water.
yeah, the reason that I asked that question was because that $60,000+ we paid for repair,
Yeah.
could
It is
have bought some
expensive.
equipment for that.
We installed. We got mine. So it's.
What, approximately how many water leaks do we carry over month to month around the city?
Um, financial budget.
I mean, is it 200 that carry over?
I don't have.
Okay, so if we're talking about budgeting, I'm still concerned that there are major leaks that we see around town that have not been addressed. Maybe they are being addressed, but it's not something we can see. Hillside and Washington, Everett and Judson, I'm sorry, Everett and Ivy. And so the same citizens keep seeing us and say, we've been telling you for 3 years that this is a leak. Can we not just hire a company to come out and fix it?
So, I mean, for the city. So, that's why we try. Year-round without water. So it's kind of.
This is not I'm not speaking of a scheduling issue. This is years of a leak. And so I'm just curious, can we hire a contractor to come out and fix those problems? And I don't know what the cost is, but sure, I completely understand. I'm saying to you that when you look at years of leaking, that is a problem and they have to get fixed at some point. So why not hire a contractor to come out and fix them? And then they're gone and you don't have to worry about them and you don't have to send our staff to go deal with them. I'm just asking if that's a possibility and I'm sure there's other leaks. I think the one over on Davis was for a while. It was leaking for a while. So as you're thinking about what money you could use to budget, if it is just as cheap or inexpensive to hire a contractor that just does, I don't even know what the problem is, just water coming up out of the ground, best my mind can tell.
It's a very small leak. Cut out that concrete, and get it done. I mean,
It's just getting it done, right? We can get it done, we just gotta get it done.
It's kind of our day.
Sure, I get it. I mean, life is that way, right? I mean, we all have a plan.
It's just balancing,
Yeah.
and I think with the water leak, water valves and other things,
That's,
like fire hydrants.
yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just, take that into consideration when we're thinking about,
We had that layoff.
Sewer department.
I hear you and the potholes hear you and we all hear you. But
Is-
at some point we have to get those fixed. And so I get that things pop up. You understand what I'm saying?
The potholes are, they're a lot.
Well, I do want
Does
to
it-
applaud you with, I think we met with Kristen here a month or so ago and told them that all the water leaks on east,
Yes, sir.
west, north, and south streets that we want to repair.
Yes, sir.
You did a good job on that.
Appreciate that. Me and myself. And other things.
I'm not saying you're not, just needing to be done.
No, I know, those guys, they,
Does the GIS help you in tracking these things and establishing a history of where the leaks are?
not with the GI. We don't have it set up on track. Sewer back.
Would it help to use the GIS?
So one of the things ongoing currently is we have an intern with A&M that he is a GIS specialist. He's finishing up a project dashboard, but one of the other projects that if he finishes the dashboard in time, which I think he will, he's a little bit ahead of schedule. He's going to look at a field GIS map. I know I talked with Jay a little bit about some valves and locating our irrigation valves. Well, that app is going to be very versatile to allow mapping of different things. So whatever has a Latin long can be mapped on our map. And so we could definitely roll in some kind of water leak tracking or whatever needs to be mapped service. But he's going to build that app for us as well.
There's field reporting where when they're out in the field, they can take a picture, upload it, and it's geolocated to that area. And so there's a lot of stuff you can do with the GIS. So what we're looking at doing is, yes, we have an intern now, but trying to have that ongoing internship with GIS so that we can make sure our maps are up to date, but also look at these other tools that are out there that maybe we don't have the time to build or the knowledge to build in some cases, but that would be really helpful to our crews. And also, one thing that was mentioned in our last meeting for the comprehensive plan was that they have a GIS specialist that works on the comp plan and taking a lot of our data to try to make sure that our infrastructure information in the system is updated and mapped more accurately. So that's something that we'll be working on as well.
I do have another question. This is not for you, Jennifer, but for Chief. We were talking about personnel. I don't know where you are with dispatchers, but I have called 2 or 3 times and been told to please hold. And so I don't know, do we have enough dispatchers or is there and this was just 2 days ago, I called and I think it was on a Sunday. And she was just busy, just lots of phone calls coming in.
So currently, we have 6 dispatch positions, and which that's a lot of stuff going through dispatch. I kind of looked through the numbers when I did the 2024 update in January. I know we average about 25 911 calls a day, so it's roughly 7,800 911 calls a year. We run about 23,000 calls for service. And this is just all PD stuff. I didn't do the update on the fire department side and how many calls they have, and they dispatch fire, medics, and police. Besides that, I think we ran 2024 about 250 arrestees, 4,500 traffic stops, and so the dispatchers, they're responsible, fire dispatcher. doing everything on that's just on the radio side of it, and then answering the 911 calls, and then non-emergency lines, I don't know how to keep track of that at all.
Just the little tick marks.
So if you have 7,700 911 calls, probably multiply that by at least 6, 7 non-emergency. So we do have 6, and that we have, it's a 12-hour shift. So there's 4 dedicated to each shift. And then we have 1 split from noon to midnight. But you have to think about, vacation, holiday, sick leave. We lose 1. Right now we're currently training 1. So technically we have 5 working. New consoles are a lot better. They're actually installed right now and they're going through training on that end. So goals on all that, add a future plan out, yes, as the traffic unit came in, as the city's growing, we're getting more calls and more calls.
Does
So-
the supervisor work a shift?
We don't have
a regular, she is on the phone as part of her 12-hour shift, or is she filling in as a secondary?
We don't have a supervisor in there now. We're just using straight dispatchers because we need that extra shift filled. The supervisor was Sarah Moon, who got promoted up to replace Marla. She oversees it. She has had to fill in on the busy days when and the large events coming in. She comes in after hours to work, and we did have 2 on sick at the same time, so she's had to fill in on that end.
And no thought of going to an 8-hour shift that may help you overlap?
8-hour shift, it could do that, but then trying to hire somebody for dispatch and get in there, it's sort of like law enforcement and everything else. Having that every other weekend off is a real benefit, since most of them do have kids at home and they get that weekend off. So that's why most agencies went to that 12-hour shift. It's a benefit.
Do you think that you just asking, you could use an additional dispatch position?
The goal would be, yes, having 2 per shift, and that way 1 has to go to the restroom. We do have to put on hold, and then we do currently get on the radio, dispatch will be 10-6, and then 2 or 3 minutes later, they're back on duty because they go to the restroom type thing. And they work 24/7, so.
And the county right now, are they still using a jailer as their backup so that somebody could go to the restroom and get the phone?
I don't know how they work, but I do know that they have cross-trained some of theirs so they can do that type of thing. I think they are running 2 per shift at the county right now.
And I was just gonna say, dispatch would be certainly one of the positions or one of the areas where the staffing plan, would kind of help us identify how many, what would it look like, and so that we can plan for those.
Sure. It is concerning when me as a citizen calls and I'm immediately told, hold on, please hold, click.
It's happened to me too. When I
Yeah.
call up there on there just to see something or versus tying up the radio because something major is happening. I know that now I've been in there several times and try to help. I don't know how to do everything, but I can dispatch stuff out. I don't know how to do fire tones, and he's learned that. But it is hard when you get a crash and you're getting 5 people call 911 and then non-emergency, but then citizens have no clue that there's a major event going on over here, and then they're calling about something minor over here, and so we just have to do priorities. Of course, having more staff on anything was going to help anything, but that is what we're running right now, our current staffing.
Thank you.
All right. So just, the only thing I just wanted to touch on debt analysis, and we already talked about it, was really just, we're gonna look this year to really get a good handle on what is our fiscal condition, what is our current debt load, what are the obligations that each of our funds have, general fund, utility fund, and what can they afford to absorb in as future debt as we start considering a CIP and future projects, so that we don't get too far out there and get too aggressive. We want to make sure that we're approaching these things rationally, and if I get deleted, it's going to be conservatively. I take a much I'm getting the impression that I take a little bit more conservative approach to, our fiscal condition than maybe my predecessor. And so I just want to get a good feel for where are we and what can we afford to do, and make sure that we're approaching it in a manner that doesn't leave any of our successors in a bind. So, not suggesting there is, just don't know yet. So want to have a little bit of opportunity. And then as we get into organizational growth, that's where we talk about the staffing plan, that growth plan. And again, while the two of us sitting up here that have actually sat at a 911 dispatch console can easily articulate the need for dispatchers, we also had discussions about water leaks that have been going on for years, and which one's more important? The water leak has been going for 3 years, or the second dispatch seat that is going to be on the phone occasionally. And and having worked in a dispatch center that had 7 people on at all times, there's going to be things that happen where phones are ringing that we don't have enough bodies in there to answer. And so that's, no matter how many we put in there, we'll always have that, and we've lived through that. So again, org chart, we just want to get a good feel for what is our span of control. Are we most effectively using the resources that we have? Where can we spread those out? Where can we shift responsibilities and things? And then, what does that staffing growth need to look like if we do grow as a community and experience some additional development? What are those additional demands going to be on city services, and what staffing sizes are going to be needed for those things? And then this is the current org chart, again, just as a review. That's from last year's budget. We'll be looking at that to make sure that it's consistent with what our charter says and what the responsibilities are. And then I just kind of wanted to end with just kind of a summary of, is there anything you have on your mind that we haven't discussed tonight that you feel like are priority items that need to be considered, or that you would like to see departments include in their budget? Or are there things that we have talked about that you are on the fence about, or thinking, I think that's more of a low priority, just to kind of give us a little bit of that feel? And then we already talked about the starting off with using last year's tax rate. Let's see where that gets us, and then go from there. So I'll pause there just to kind of, if you all have any thoughts on something that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about as a priority, or something that we have that you feel like is not really a priority.
Well, I've got something that's not really a top priority. It's just something that we had said that we was gonna do and it haven't got done. It's one of the parks. It's one of the parks here in town.
Okay, yeah.
It's the W.M. Abbott Marjorie Miller Park on the west side of town. It's supposed to be a name put up over there, name of the park. And I think we all was told that we paid for benches to be built by the Navasota FFA to be put out over there. Kristen, can you?
There were some that were donated,
Not donated, I think we purchased them, right?
we didn't, we bought some.
Okay.
We purchased.
We were 7 or 8 total.
And we played some of.
But
Yeah.
we can move them where. We can definitely transport them.
And who would be in charge of the signage?
also, that should be, as well as making sure that everything is uniform, trash can, signage, so that'll be part of that.
Some of the signs, I'm sure you've noticed at the parks are broken at the top, and so considering whether we should just repair those or whether we want to replace them all with a new consistent look is another thing that we would consider in that plan.
Didn't we go through all of that when we talked about the direction, the
Wayfinding.
wayfinding signs, and then we said, let's not,
Well, the sign, my understanding was, the sign that was proposed for the parks, which I've seen them, they were gigantic, were not within our, sign ordinance. And so they required a variance, and that there was not a lot of support for signs that large, that, I don't know if it was just the size or if it was also some of the other factors in the sign. So I just sent an email to Robert today. I did work to have some updated design that I think might be more suitable to council and the community. And so that's something that we can consider as part of the plan or as an expense for next year. However, Robert and I, decide we want to go about that. But I think it may have had to do more with the design of the signs and wanting to stay consistent with the stone the we have in the current signs, but also potentially kind of match some of what we have in the new signage downtown. There's a lot of different options that we could do. So I've been looking into some of those options as well.
I just think we just need to move forward with it.
I don't know if this is the place to ask this or the time, but we're moving picnic tables to a pasture. Is that right? I mean, the park is just a pasture at this point, right? There's no.
Green space, it's open space, yeah.
Okay, but if it's wood, it seems like sitting in a wet ground would not be ideal. I don't know, I'm sorry.
Well, the original intent was to replace some of the tables that were there at Dog Shores Pavilion, I think.
I think those have been replaced. Isn't it? Yes. Up underneath the,
Some of them have. I think we had a Boy Scout
I was gonna say Boy Scout
project
did some of that.
to help replace some of those.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at something in that park that James was talking about, was to just give that park something,
Yeah.
because it's nothing right now.
Yeah, just green space
And
right
just
now.
give it something for a gathering point for that neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we could put some little paver
But you
blocks
could
underneath
put,
the
yeah, you
feet.
could
That's
put
what I'm.
paver
Yeah.
stones under the
That's
feet
easy.
or something
Yeah.
to keep them from rotting.
We'll get Jay to look at that when he puts them out there, make sure that.
And that's also a good blank slate to look at when we're doing the parks master plan, to really look at that space and see
Yeah.
what creative, cool ideas could go there for the
We
community.
talked about one time, there was a cheap thing would be to, like a walking trail, would be something easy that you could do with like some pebble stones, or something. And then with the tables or something like that, you kind of created a little something there.
Little nook someplace.
Okay. And then we're just back to, just kind of as a reminder for anyone that didn't get the dates earlier. Again, this kind of tries to take advantage of our existing regular council meeting schedule. If you all, at any point feel like we need a dedicated date for, something to talk in more detail, we certainly can, but, we went through a pretty lengthy discussion tonight, almost 2 hours, so if we do an hour at the other ones, I think that gets us at least a decent amount of discussion, but if you feel like we need more, we certainly will make it available. Anything else? Any other questions, thoughts? Mayor, that's all we have.
All right, we're adjourned.